What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with another podcast. What's going on in pop culture right now? A few key things to get into here. Chief among them, the 2024 Grammys are here. Going to do my full predictions for all the categories, the key categories anyway, as well as some genre stuff. New music, new album from Benny the Butcher, his major label debut, very exciting. New movie Origin from Ava DuVernay, her first film in several years. And then on the TV front, we have Expats starring Nicole Kidman, out on Amazon Prime Video, and also Masters of the Air, starring Austin Butler, on Apple TV+. So make sure you subscribe, youtube.com/nostalgiapod, linktree.com/nostalgiapod. See links below. Get the best of 2024 Spotify playlist updated every week. Let me know it's good, and let's get into it. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Everybody Can't Go, the new album from Benny the Butcher. The Butcher coming? No, the Butcher is here with his major label debut, first album out on Def Jam. Of course, the Griselda rapper we know well has released more albums and mixtapes than we can count, honestly, ever since his career started around 20 years ago. And this feels like a great jumping in point for those who maybe are unfamiliar with Benny the Butcher, who despite his, internet fame and consistent momentum as part of the Griselda crew, he's not the biggest rapper in the world. So, I think jumping in here would be a great point because I think Everybody Can't Go is absolutely fantastic. This is a fire record. It's everything you want from Benny the Butcher. It's lavish with just immaculate production. Hit Boy and The Alchemist, unsurprisingly, spazzed on this with the beats. And Benny, more often than not, his flow fits these beats like a glove. I think this sounds great. I think it's one of his best works, to be honest. Obviously, there's many Benny albums to go through, but I think when you're thinking about The Butcher, this kind of gives you everything you want. I was certainly very pleased with it. Just kind of jumping into the track list here. Track 2, Braun, banger, right off the bat. I really like the flow from Benny where he's kind of like pausing at the end of each bar before delivering like the last word. Sounds really great. And yeah, just this has such a blockbuster feel, this beat. I love the drums on this. I really enjoyed Benny's flow on the next song, Big Dog. Then the title track, Everybody Can't Go. Man, this might be the best song on the album. I mean, the flow mixes with the beat so well. Again, so fire. I love the Doja Cat name drop there. No ginger ale, but I could have bled Canada dry. Bars, so good. The next one, TMVTL. I love the beat flip on that. Song completely switches up. It's so good. Back Again with Snoop Dogg. Another real big highlight to me. Amazing flow from Benny. And it's like kind of the perfect use of Snoop. Perfect kind of distillation of what Snoop can give you in 2024. Obviously, as one of the OGs in the game. It's like really just a hook and like extended ad-libs from Snoop, but it's like the perfect touch to the song. It sounds great. I think One Foot In, the next one with Stove God Cooks, this is like a great example of like the Butcher giving you, I think, the multifaceted sides of him. Like he can give you the bangers, right? The flexing, the pushing weight bars that we know he can do so well, right? He can glide on those and you'll just enjoy it, right? On a song like One Foot In, he can still do that, make a song that bangs, but he's really talking about the push-pull, the difficulty that a lot of rappers that came up through the streets often face with leaving a prior life, largely outside the law, trying to leave that fully behind and move forward with his new life and new opportunities. And I think this is a really compelling, song from The Butcher just because it's giving that message while still being just a banger song to listen to. Buffalo Kitchen Club featuring Armani Caesar, the first female rapper on Griselda. This I also thought was great. I thought Armani was just kind of levitating, to be honest. She sounded awesome. And for the beat, the piano key loop, it's like so simple, but just like gets stuck in your brain. It sounds great. Big Timers at the end there. I just kind of love Benny doing like kind of like a melodic chorus, almost like out of nowhere at the very end of the album. Maybe that's a sign of what's to come from him. Probably not, but it's like at least an acknowledgement of his general talent and that he can do other things. Pretty cool. Of course, you get a song with West Side Gun and Conway. The second to last song, Griselda Express. It didn't really jump out to me too much. Obviously, they have so many collabs together, like it's hard to be too picky about it. But even though I think as the Griselda Records as a label has largely like exhausted its use for Benny and Conway and West Side Gun as they've moved to bigger labels to support them, Griselda as like a movement, as a loosely affiliated crew, still holds true, and it's cool to see them still working together, even though they're not necessarily in business together anymore. Pillow Talk and Slander, you get a verse from Jadakiss, just an awesome collab. I'm so happy that exists. And Kiss obviously was great. Yeah, man, Everybody Can't Go. I think there's a lot of highlights on this song. I think the title track to me is my favorite song, but a lot to choose from. Let me know, what was your favorite song from The Butcher on this? Do you think this is up there with the best Benny releases like me? Let me know. And for more rap reviews, more music reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. What's up? Welcome to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Origin, the new drama film from Ava DuVernay, out now in limited release. This was a film that was attempting to compete for the Oscars, didn't end up making much of an awards push despite some reservations from the creators. Nonetheless, the movie's out now. This is I think, a very interesting, audacious, ambitious film that's definitely worth seeing, worth examining. I think the effectiveness of the film is very much up and down. This is a kind of like adaptation slash diving into the best-selling book Caste, The Origins of Our Discontents by Isabel Wilkerson, the author. And this film, Origin, basically dramatizes the life of Isabel Wilkerson, played by Anjanou Ellis in the film. And it's about Ellis basically coming around to the idea of creating this book that ended up being a bestseller in 2020, coming to this idea and like having this enlightenment about how to make this book while experiencing a lot of personal tragedy in her own private life. And it's again, I think it's pretty up and down. I think the most compelling stuff about Origin is largely about the thesis of the book Caste, which is largely, to be very broad and brief here, kind of linking the experience of Black people in the United States, from the Middle Passage through segregation, linking that experience to the treatment of Jews in Nazi Germany, and also the treatment of Dalits, formerly known as untouchables, in India, and their treatment within the Indian caste system. And the thesis is basically that caste and the similarity across these three examples of systemic and widespread oppression, it's actually caste, and that hierarchy that it creates is the kind of root cause of this oppression, and it's not race. Whereas Americans, we obviously often default to race because that is what we know, and that is obviously so important to the what the Black experience in the United States, right? But in India, this oppression to the Dalits, well, they're all brown. They're all the same race, and Jewish people were viewed as white until the Nazis tried to change people's minds about that. So, on one hand, that's like I think a really like compelling way to think about things. That's I think a thesis that's been challenged despite the book's success by many, in terms of being an oversimplification and kind of not acknowledging of class per se, kind of just leaving all like the academic thought around the idea aside. I think that's the most interesting stuff in the movie Origin. And, I think what kind of like drags the movie down for me, which is, it's about 2 hours, 20 minutes long. There's a lot of scenes, there's a lot of cutting. We see as Anjanou Ellis, as she's going through these trials and tribulations in her own life, losing her husband to a sudden brain injury and death, played by John Bernthal, lovingly, like great performance from Bernthal in a small role. Losing her husband and losing her aging mother within a year's time, and then also beginning to deal with the slow decay of her sick cousin she's close with, played by Niecy Nash. She's dealing with all that and like all that, that loneliness, that aloneness, but also like this kind of the cascade of trauma while she's coming through, this thesis. And meanwhile, the movie Origin is also, as Wilkerson is like having this enlightenment and trying to connect these dots in her head on the whiteboard and whatnot. We're seeing things she's like talking about in her work dramatized on screen. So we see scenes in Nazi Germany. We see a book burning scene that I think is quite visceral, quite in your face. We see moments of slaves on the Middle Passage, on slave ships, in the bowels of the ships on the ocean. We see the Deep South in America. We see India, during the 20th century, and it's some of those scenes I think are quite good. They look good for sure, but to me it kind of like muddled the movie, and I thought like ultimately it kind of got a little melodramatic for me because it's trying to serve the individual Wilkerson journey alongside these really heady and heavy and complicated, dramatic themes and how they relate to like our real world. I think there's a few really good scenes. Like there's a moment where Wilkerson is at like kind of like a like family and friends like kind of like cookout outside, and she explains to her cousin Marion, Niecy Nash, explains like kind of like the core premise of the cast and why it's not race but it's caste, and it's like kind of like a really compelling like 10-minute scene, 5-minute monologue type thing, and then you have Marion be like that. Say that in normal people's terms. That's what people need to hear. And to me, that's like the best like selling point of the film because like that's something like really grabs you. And I really like that scene a lot. I think other stuff though. I think probably the other good thing I really liked is when Wilkerson goes to Germany and she's with some friends and colleagues and stuff, and they kind of have like like a academic disagreement about the idea of linking the treatment of Jews in Nazi Germany and the treatment of Black people in the United States. And, one was commodification for capitalism versus one was purely for extermination and removal, in terms of the similarity but difference is the point of view of Wilkerson's colleague. And another compelling scene for sure. But like I think ultimately like it gets a little like I said, a little melodramatic, a little I think like proud of its grand paint strokes towards the end, and I just don't know if it like truly gets in there, because again, like this is like I think a lot of really complicated, study and connection and way of thinking about the world and history, and the movie doesn't do anything beyond presenting that idea, and I think if you maybe had focused more on that and less on Wilkerson's personal life, or maybe didn't focus on like dramatizing the scene she's talking about in the past and just focus the movie more on the present. It's taking place in the early 10s. Speaking of, I forgot, it also dramatizes the death of Trayvon Martin, the murder of Trayvon Martin, right? A lot of these things are like tough to see dramatized, right? I think that's the point of the film. But I just don't know if it gets quite as profound as it wants to be as a movie. I think part of that's just like the form is just a bit messy. So definitely a movie that compelled me, made me think. And I think that's primarily the result of the just general thesis of the book cast. So interesting for sure. I think Ava DuVernay, she wrote and directed this movie. Her first film since the Wrinkle in Time adaptation. Of course, since then she had done When They See Us on Netflix, the Emmy winner. And I think she's obviously a very talented, intriguing, and ambitious filmmaker. That remains the case. And even if I didn't totally like this movie, I think there's a lot of things to admire about the approach to, I think, really like intense and complicated material. So obviously she remains, I think, in high demand. She's a very witty person. So yeah, that's Origin, out now slowly from, I believe, Neon. Let me know, what did you think of Origin? Did you connect more with its overall conclusion more than me? Let me know. And for more movie reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Expats, the new drama miniseries from Lulu Wang, out now on Amazon Prime Video. The first 2 of 6 episodes out now. This is an adaptation of the 2016 novel The Expatriates from Janice Y.K. Lee. And I was interested in this really because this is Lulu Wang's follow-up to her 2019 film, The Farewell, one of my top 10 movies of 2019, a film that really put her on the map as a new talented filmmaker to watch. And I'm a bit disappointed that she made a TV show and not another movie. Nonetheless, I had to check it out. She directed all 6 episodes and wrote some of them as well, and created the series based on the book. And that was enough to get me in. And this is starring Nicole Kidman, her fourth big high level prestige TV series since the era of peak TV began. Of course, following Big Little Lies, Nine Perfect Strangers, and The Undoing. And I have to say, through 2 episodes of Expats, I think it looks good. I think the location setting, the location of a story taking place in Hong Kong is very compelling. But I'm not super into the narrative, I have to say. I didn't really feel a hook through the first 2 episodes. And I'm also a bit kind of tired of this mode of Nicole Kidman, I have to be honest. As much as I love the AMC commercial that I see, 60 times a year when I go to the movies, despite all that, this mode, it feels a bit repetitive. It feels mundane, routine to us on TV now from Kidman. It's a very similar story. Again, she's playing a wealthy, older woman of her age, and she's dealing with other wealthy people, and some kind of trauma or incident happens. And it's kind of the same general type story that we've seen her do recently, and I think more interestingly is 2 other characters on the show. And I think what this show is about is largely going to be centered on 3 female perspectives. We have 2 timelines, a current timeline as well as a past timeline. And the past timeline and the trauma, the incident, the tragedy that happens that we get shown in the second episode is very much informing how these characters have changed in the current timeline that we're experiencing. And those other characters are Hillary, so Nicole Kidman plays Margaret, who is a titular expat, moved to Hong Kong with her husband Clark, played by Brian T. So Clark could pursue his, career dreams. And another expat that lives in the same apartment building of theirs, is Hillary, played by Sararia Blue. And also they encounter a young expat, 20-something, Mercy, played by Ji Young Yu. And the 3 of them all kind of connect, and they have unsurprisingly, as TV works, they come together in planned and unplanned ways, right? And I think what's, perhaps most interesting about the show is how it's presenting class, I guess, because these expats are living in the wealthiest, tallest apartment building in Hong Kong, literally called The Peak. They all have live-in help, live-in nannies and servants, basically. And I know a future episode is going to go into that perspective more specifically. I just don't know if the core conflict that's presented through the first 2 episodes is enough to really grab me. I'm going to see it through just because I want to support Lulu Wang, but the dramatic trauma that befalls Margaret, Nicole Kidman's character, you kind of see it coming. They basically tell you what it was in the first episode, and they show you it in the flashback timeline in episode 2, and it's okay, now what? I don't know. Mercy's growing connection to David, Hillary's on their estranged-esque or becoming estranged husband, played by Jack Houston. Perhaps that'll be interesting a little bit. I don't know. I think the presence of, expat foreigners living in a different land and how they feel about that, I think that could be something to explore. But ultimately, I just didn't feel like there was a whole lot really to latch onto from a narrative perspective through those first 2 episodes. I have to be honest. Again, I think the setting looks nice. The performances are pretty good, even if this is very, very familiar Kidman. So I'm going to see it through, but I wasn't too intrigued, even if I found it easy enough to watch. So that's my thoughts on Expats through the first 2 episodes. I'd be curious if other people disagreed. If you liked it more, please let me know why. And for more TV reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Masters of the Air, the new World War II drama series out now on Apple TV Plus, the spiritual follow-up to HBO's Band of Brothers and the Pacific. HBO is out, Apple is in. This has been a long in the making, 10 plus years. Steven Spielberg, Tom Hanks still involved from the producing side of things. And this has been a long time coming. One of the biggest show on Apple, $200+ million budget. Long time coming for sure. And also has a lot of star power coming into it, starring Austin Butler, Caleb Turner, and Barry Keoghan. Some other familiar faces will pop up as well. And yeah, I think there was a lot of hype and anticipation for this because Band of Brothers specifically, and also the Pacific, have really kind of, I think, ingratiated themselves as like core, like dad core, like stuff, just because of how high level those shows were. Of course, seeing the European theater from the Army's perspective, a Band of Brothers, the Pacific theater's perspective with the Pacific, and now, of course, Masters of the Air taking us into the sky. The airplane perspective. Now, this is not about fighter pilots. This is about bombers, specifically the 100th Bomb Group, as they arrive in England to begin, going out on raids, attacking Nazi German targets. This is in 1943. We're still about a year before D-Day, so the war has not yet really turned. And this series is directed by Cary Fukunawa, Anna Boden Ryan Fleck, Dee Reese. You got a lot of directorial talent there. And I think largely it looks pretty good. It's certainly period accurate. The bomber jackets look great on the guys, you have to say. The scenes up in the sky, even though obviously they didn't fly, vintage B-17s to film this. This was not filmed like Top Gun. Nonetheless, I think the scenes look pretty good in terms of filming cockpit scenes and then using stagecraft VFX to simulate the sky. It looks compelling, and I'm certainly interested. To me, honestly, like no matter how I felt about this, I was probably gonna see it through just because I think Boston Butler and Barry Keoghan are like must watch right now on TV. Caleb Turner, this is actually time for him. Of course, The Boys in the Boat, pseudo holiday hit. The guy's dating Dua Lipa right now. He's never been any hotter. So good for that. Good for him. Good for Caleb Turner. And really, it's him and Butler are like the leads. Barry Keoghan's more of a supporting character. I wish he was in it more. 2 episodes out now on Apple. And Butler, very much kind of doing the cool Steely Reserve performance. You can hear there's a hint of Elvis in the voice still. This was filmed a few years ago. And yeah, I think they're like kind of in leadership roles. The three stars here, and I think from what I gather from the first 2 episodes, I'm curious like how like deep it goes into the character, because it's hard to really connect and like know where you're at in the heat of battle up in the sky as these bombers are fending off Nazi fighter planes, trying to take them down, trying to not get shot by the flak from the ground below. But, similar to like Dunkirk or Mad Max Fury Road or something, when your lead characters all have, face masks on their face and flight caps on, and they're in confined spaces, in this case the bombs, it's hard to maintain narrative coherence at times. And as dramatic things happen, right? Planes are going down. People are getting shot through the plane and dying, right? Bad things are happening. It's hard to know exactly and track exactly what's going on moment to moment. And I think that's just kind of the overall challenge of portraying something like this. Again, because these B-17s, they're so immobile as a big ass plane dropping bombs that it's a lot more static. So I'm curious how that's going to feel, and if we get deeper with any of our characters. There's other characters in the cast too. Anthony Boyle, who plays this like nauseous, nervous navigator airman, who also is a narrator of the series. Yes, there is narration. We'll see how that feels as the series continues. Yeah, like I know like to come, like it's in the trailer, like there's going to be a nod to the Tuskegee Airmen. Ncuti Gatwa is going to be on the series. You hope that that's not just like a token acknowledgement and there's actually exploring in depth, spending time with that versus it feeling tacked on. A lot of the advanced reviews have not had too kind things to say about that inclusion. we also know there's like kind of like detoury things to come, you know. The first 2 episodes is basically just going on a bunch of missions, like 2 missions really. And I think a lot of it's like quite harrowing, and it's like filmed, really well. I'm just curious if like the overall narrative will be able to carry and sustain itself over the course of the series. Either way, obviously I'm going to watch it. Like I'm into it, but I think the question is just if these characters were able to delve deeper into them. Caleb Turner's character, a guy who kind of has anger issues, drink issues at times, more of a loose cannon than Butler, who seems very cool and collected. Will they come to a head at some point? Like what's going on? Like I just hope that the heat of the battle stuff will feel like you get more invested in it. So we'll see. Obviously, it's early in the run of the show. Also, kind of coming at a cool time because Steve McQueen's Blitz, starring Saoirse Ronan, will be coming out, end of the year as an awards contender. That's of course about the bombing of Britain. So kind of a tandem, 2 releases there. Interesting. We'll see how those compare. Obviously, we have high hopes for any Steve McQueen work. I think the crash landing scene in episode 1 was really cool. You get a lot more of Keown in episode 2. The bar fight with the British officer was really fun. The ground crew detour, I don't know if like that's something we necessarily need. I think we need to spend more time with our lead guys and like their core crews. And I think maybe as the 100th bombing group, like as they like do runs with other groups, I wonder if that'll like feel like you'll be able to keep like that straight in the mind as the viewer. We'll see. So I have some thoughts, some reservations on structure, but overall I think the action is compelling, and I just like the leads enough that I want to keep going. So Masters of the Air, I'm happy it's finally here. Feels a bit weird that this is not on HBO. It is in fact on Apple, nonetheless. I guess you can tell a little bit. Doesn't feel quite as gritty and grimy. I'll be curious what it feels like if we spend some time on the ground, in ground combat, if guys get captured, things like that. We'll see. But yeah, let me know. How'd you feel about Masters of the Air through 2 episodes? What are you most looking forward to seeing? And for more TV reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with my 2024 Grammy predictions. It's the Grammys are back, coming very soon, February 4th. So in honor of that, of course, had to go through all the top categories, some genre categories as well, do my predictions. I, of course, did my nomination predictions a while back, reacted to those nominations when those came out. So some of the surprises of who did and didn't get in, I already talked about that. Check that out if you missed it. Really just going to focus on who did get nominated and who I think will, in fact, win, and who I'd like to win as well. So let's kind of jump right into that. We'll just start with, off the top here, the most nominated artist is not Taylor Swift or Olivia Rodrigo. It is, in fact, SZA with 9 nominations. And with 7, we have Phoebe Bridgers, Victoria Monet, as well as Serban Gneha, the Canadian audio engineer and mixer. And then with 6 nominees, that's where we find Olivia, Taylor Swift, Miley Cyrus, Billie Eilish, Boy Genius, Jon Batiste, Jack Antonoff, and Brandy Clark. So looking at, the top categories here with Record of the Year, Song of the Year, I think everyone's kind of talked about this for a year now, as this was going to be like Taylor Swift with Midnights versus Olivia Rodrigo with Guts, especially once we knew that Olivia's album was coming out. And SZA's SOS was there as well. Kind of running it back with what happened with the Grammys last year, where it was very much Beyonce and Harry Styles and Adele. There's a lot of heavy hitters, A-list pop stars at the top here in your top categories. And I think this is a very interesting one to think about, in terms of, we'll start with Album of the Year. So Album of the Year, you have Taylor Swift, Olivia, SZA, as well as Miley, Jon Batiste, Boy Genius, Janelle Monáe, and Lana Del Rey. And yeah, I think it's really just between our big 3 here. And really, I think I'm going to take Olivia off. So I don't really think she has a chance to win Album of the Year. And I think the question is Taylor Swift going to, in fact, win her 4th Album of the Year for Midnights and break that record and stand alone at the top of that record for most Album of the Years from the Grammy? Is that really going to happen? Because that's not the most critically loved Taylor album. And even Taylor Swift fans, the Swifties, would agree it's not the best Taylor album. It's a big album, and of course Taylor Swift has never been bigger. Still very much, at the very top here in the news all the time, as we know. So is her unparalleled year that she had as the face of pop music, will that culminate with an album of the year win for an album that is not as good as her best? That's the question. Versus SZA's SOS, which also was a complete commercial behemoth, a monster record as well, and a lot more well liked. I think that's the choice here, and honestly, I will not be shocked if SZA does it. If she did, she'd be the first woman of color to win Album of the Year since the early 2000s. It's been a long time, unfortunately. Beyonce fans could tell you all about that. I'm not sure. It's really hard to say. It feels really stupid to pick against Taylor Swift after the year she had, but I think I'm going to do it. I think SZA's SOS does it. Kind of define the initial gut feeling of what you think will happen. Similar to how Harry Styles won last year when everyone thought it was going to be Beyonce or Adele. So I'm going to go with SZA's SOS. Of course, I will not be shocked in the least if Taylor does in fact get it done. And along those that same line of thought here, that leads us to Song of the Year and Record of the Year. And I think Record of the Year is kind of clearly should be Taylor Swift to me. Record of the Year should be Antihero from Taylor, because Record is more about the song construction, the melody, the composition, and Antihero is such like a pop perfection type song construction by Taylor and Jack Antonoff that I think that's like where it's so undeniable here. Versus Olivia's Vampire, I think, is a great candidate for Song of the Year, where you're honoring more the songwriting and the lyrics themselves of the song. Kill Bill from SZA, also very much in the Record of the Year field. That's a song that's kind of about vibe and melody, right? So Antihero versus Kill Bill and Record, I'm going to go with Antihero for Taylor, and I'm going to go with Vampire for Song of the Year. So if that holds, that would mean Album of the Year, Song of the Year, and Record of the Year are spread between 3 different artists. That's what I'm going to pick here. Does not happen all that much, though, so I feel like I'm going on a limb a little bit. Also, I'd be remiss to not acknowledge Miley Cyrus for Flowers for Record and Song of the Year. I think she's very much in the mix for that, probably more so in song. Also, Billie Eilish, What Was I Made For, is nominated for Record and Song, and you know how much of a Grammy darling Billie Eilish has been to this point. It would not be wise to write her off in the slightest. I don't really think anyone else is too in the mix here, although, Victoria Monet with On My Mama is nominated for Record, and, she has so many nominations this year, so that would be a surprise, but, something to note anyway. So that's the big 3, and then last of the general field, we have Best New Artist, where the full field is Gracie Abrams, Fred Again, Ice Spice, Jelly Roll, Noah Kahan, Coco Jones, Victoria Monet, and The Warren Treaty. And, leading into the nominations, I was thinking, it's Ice Spice in a walk, Ice Spice to lose. She's the most pop of all these contenders. And, once someone like Peso Pluma, shockingly, was not nominated for Best New Artist, when someone like New Jeans, the K-pop side, was not nominated, I was like, okay, it's going to be Ice Spice. But since then, Jelly Roll, he won the equivalent award from one of the country award bodies recently and had a huge year. Hardly a new artist, although his current iteration is newer. Victoria Monet, also someone in her early 30s, not exactly new, but newer as a soloist, as a writer for herself versus, say, Ariana Grande. Victoria Monet with, 7 nominations? And also nominated for Album of the Year and, Song and Record? Like, she would be a huge shock to not win Best New Artist, so I think you have to go with that. Now, sometimes that kind of conventional wisdom doesn't exactly apply in terms of like smaller categories. When people are up for bigger categories, they clean up in the smaller categories against competition that's not in the big categories with them. Not always the case, especially with genre stuff here at the Grammys, but I think Victoria Monet is pretty safely in Best New Artist, and if not, then probably Jelly Roll. And I gotta say again, I'm happy my guy Fred Again is there. That's an awesome nomination. So that's the big ones. We're going SZA for Album of the Year, Taylor for Record of the Year, Olivia for Song of the Year, and Victoria Monet for Best New Artist. So from there, let's just jump into some Grammy categories here, some genre categories of the Grammys here. I'm not going to do all of them, just obviously so many, but let's just kind of go through some. Okay, Pop solo performance. You have Miley for Flowers, Doja Cat for Paint the Town Red, Billie for What Was I Made For, Olivia's Vampire, Taylor's Antihero. In theory, right, it's going to be Olivia, Taylor, or Billie, but I wouldn't be shocked if, say, like, Miley Cyrus wins for Flowers. You know, if she doesn't win one of the big ones, but she wins in genre. Because this is, again, something that happens at the Grammys, where, like, a song like, say, Antihero doesn't necessarily always win 5 times, doesn't win in every category it's in, even if it wins the big one, historically at the Grammys. So, you know, I think Miley, like, I feel like I'm spreading the wealth way too much with my picks here, fully acknowledging that, but I could see Miley here. My personal favorite on this is actually Paint the Town Red by Doja, but I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, let's go with Miley for pop solo performance. And then pop vocal album, we have Miley's Endless Summer Vacation, Olivia's Guts, Ed Sheeran, Taylor's Midnights, Kelly Clarkson's Chemistry. Again, it doesn't always line up. You know, if Midnights doesn't win for album of the year, as I picked, I think pop vocal is like pretty safe, and Taylor would win it. But if Taylor wins album of the year, perhaps Miley or Olivia wins here. You know, I don't think Ed Sheeran or Kelly Clarkson are winning. I'll go with Taylor winning for Midnights for pop vocal. Let's looking through some other ones here. Let's see. Pop duo group performance. Interesting category here. I think Ghost in the Machine by SZA featuring Phoebe Bridgers is a pretty safe pick here, just because SZA and Phoebe are both in album of the year separately. Same thought, you have Candy Necklace by Lana Del Rey featuring Jon Batiste. So I would go there. I would look there. I guess Taylor with Ice Spice and Karma. Miley, Brandy Carlisle for 1,000 Miles. It's a pretty good category. But I'll go with Ghost in the Machine, SZA, and Phoebe there. Pop dance recording. Let's see. Man, I want my guy Troye Sivan to win for Rush so bad. I don't think it's going to happen, but I don't really know. I don't have a good feel for that, so I'm going to pick it. Let's send it. Troye Sivan Rush. Let's get it done. Let's go into rap real quick. We got Best Rap Album. Quite the field here. You got Her Loss from Drake in 21, Michael from Killer Mike, Heroes and Villains by Metro Boomin, King's Disease 3 by Nas, and Utopia by Travis Scott. Quite the assortment here. You know, Nas, of course, won for the first King's Disease. Hard to say. I really don't know. Obviously, Drake has been combative with the Grammys, to say the least. Her Loss is also at the very beginning of the Grammy period. Feels a bit old at this point. Obviously, a whole nother Drake album has come out since then. A whole nother 21 album has come out since then. You know, I feel like the momentum might kind of be behind Metro with Heroes and Villains, which is a big record, had some big songs on it, such as, of course, Creepin' with The Weeknd. I don't know about Travis Scott. I mean, I'm surprised he even got the nomination here, but I just don't know if some of the baggage that he's had, obviously, in the last handful of years is going to help him get through. Then again, Killer Mike has the old head status and is not a recent winner like Nas. It's really hard to say what's going to happen. I'm going to go with Metro, which feels very weird as a pick, but yeah, I mean, the Grammys are weird with rap, unfortunately. I mean, half the time they don't even, show most of these wins on the broadcast. I hope that's going to change this year. I don't know. Best rap song, you have Doja Cat's Attention, Barbie World from Nicki and Ice Spice with Aqua, The Flip, Just Wanna Rock by Lil Uzi Vert, Rich Flex by Drake in 21, and Scientists and Engineers from Killer Mike featuring Andre 3000 and Future. You know, another interesting one where I don't like Just Wanna Rock as much as a song to pick it. I don't know about Doja's Attention. Barbie World's such a sample-heavy redo. Rich Flex also kind of uninspiring to me. I think Scientists and Engineers is the pick here and kind of speaks to the old head leaning bias the Grammys have had lately. And it's a great song, so that'd be cool. Melodic rap performance, we have Low by SZA, All My Life, Dirk and J. Cole, Spin About You by Drake and 21, Attention by Doja, and Sitting on Top of the World from Burna Boy featuring 21. That would be my pick. I love that song. It was one of my top 10 songs of 2023. I'm so happy it got nominated. Don't really see it getting the win, unfortunately. That's what I want to happen. I'm not sure about this. I kind of have a feeling that All My Life, Dirk and J. Cole could get through. It's a happier, positive message song, but still very triumphant and catchy and fun to listen to. So I'm going to go with that. Of course, you got SZA here in a genre category. In theory, she's the favorite, but yeah, not necessarily how the Grammys roll. So let's go with All My Life, Dirk and J. Cole. Best country album, I mean, that's going to be Zach Bryan's self-titled, pretty obvious. Musica Urbana, that's going to be Karol G, pretty easy. Was it the World Music album? I think Burna Boy has that in the bag once again. What do they call that category now? Global Music album. I Told Them from Burna. You don't have Rema in here, so like the biggest artist of Afrobeats alongside Burna the last year plus has been Rema. Rema's not here, so Global Music Performance, Burna could win that. African Music Performance is interesting because you have Water by Tyla. Obviously, Tyla's debut album is coming early 2024. A lot of industry push behind Tyla. I would not be shocked if her big hit won African Music Performance, going up against Burna Boy's City Boys, which was a big hit. So keep an eye out for that one. And then lastly, let's just look at R&B here. Best R&B album, you have Babyface, Coco Jones, Emily King, Victoria Monet, and Summer Walker. I think it's pretty clearly going to be Victoria Monet for Jaguar 2. Progressive R&B album, you have Black, Diddy, Terrence Martin and James Fauntleroy, Janelle Monáe, and SZA. Interesting one because you have Janelle there with SZA, although I was kind of shocked to see Janelle get as many noms as she did for The Age of Pleasure. Normally I'd be rooting for her, I just wasn't a big fan of that record. So I think SZA pretty easily can get the genre win for SOS there. And then R&B song, we have Halle Bailey's Angel. We have Back to Love by Robert Glasper and Friends, I See You by Coco Jones, On My Mama, Victoria Monet, and Snooze by SZA. So again, you got Victoria Monet and SZA going head to head. I think you got to default SZA again, generally, but maybe they split it up. Hard to say there, but I'll go with I'll go with On My Mama here because that's up for record of the year, and Snooze is not, so we'll go with that. Traditional R&B performance, you have Babyface, Kenyon Dixon, Victoria Monet for Hollywood, featuring Earth, Wind & Fire, PJ Morton, and SZA's Love Language. Earth, Wind & Fire feels like some star power when it comes to people voting, so I would not be shocked if that's the winner here, but really hard to pick. And then R&B performance, you have Chris Brown, Robert Glasper, Coco Jones, Victoria Monet, and SZA. SZA's up there with Kill Bill, a top general field contender, so we'll go with that for R&B performance. Yeah, that's kind of the mix there. That's kind of the big categories. Oh, lastly, let's look at a dance electronic album. You have James Blake, The Chemical Brothers, Fred Again, KX5, and Skrillex. Some good star power there. Skrillex, Fred Again, James Blake. Not really sure where they're going to lean. I'm pulling for my guy Fred Again. That's my favorite album on there, Actual Life 3. But I'm not really sure. I feel like in theory, James Blake is like the default kind of selection for something like that, but Fred Again, I feel like it has the industry support, so let's go with that. And yeah, that's the 2024 Grammy predictions. Let me know, who do you want to see win? Of all those big categories, who are you pulling for the most? Who's being overlooked? Are you a big Lana fan, Miley fan? Do you feel like they're being underappreciated in this triumvirate of SZA versus Taylor versus Olivia? Let me know how you're feeling about this. Let me know about the nominations. Who do you think should have been here that isn't there? Obviously, there's plenty of people to cite. I already mentioned some. And make sure you come back right after the Grammys because I'll be doing my reaction to who ends up winning and talking about that. The Grammys always surprise us for good and bad. So make sure you come back, let me know. And for more award predictions and music reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. All right, that's going to do it for the pod this week. Next week, I'll be reacting to the Grammy winners. The Grammys always surprise us, both for good and bad. So we wait with bated breath. Matthew Vaughn's new movie, Argyle, after heavy promotion, will be out. Got to see that. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, starring Donald Glover, out on Amazon Prime Video. And some other stuff in the can, I think. So yeah, make sure you subscribe. YouTube.com/nostalgiapod. Linktree.com/nostalgiapod. See links below. Get the best of 2024 Spotify playlist for my favorite songs, updated every week. Let me know it's good, and I'll see you next week.